Hey everyone, my name is Ayden. I'm the station manager of WRVU, and I'm here with Sophie and Macie from Ohmme. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Sophie and I'm a blog writer for WRVU.
And I'm Macie, and I'm an Ohmme.
Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, just to kind of get started, could you tell us a bit about how you guys sort of formed and got your start? What was it like kind of coming up in the Chicago music community?
Totally. Yeah, this is a story we love to tell.
I'm sure you get asked it all the time.
I was in we went to the same high school, and she's a few years older than me. And she was in some very cool bands at the time that I definitely looked up to. And I was in the school musical my sophomore year. We did like Little Shop of Horrors, and I had a singing role. And Seema's brother was playing in the pit orchestra. So that was kind of the first time that we like interacted with each other. And she talked to her brother and was like, her brother was starting a band. She was like, "Oh, you should talk to Macie to sing in the band." And so that was kind of how we started interacting with each other. And then when Seema moved back to Chicago from college because she went to NYU, we started singing together. I would do backup in her solo project, and she would sing with my band Marrow at the time, and then we were both doing background vocals for a lot of other people as well. And then simultaneously hanging out at this bar, Constellation, which is like home to some really awesome experimental and improvised music. And we were like, we should start a project, because we were really interested in experimenting on the guitar, and we loved singing together and knew that we could do that. So yeah, and then that's kind of how we were brought together as Ohmme. And then it's been like 6 years.
Wow, nice.
Wow, yeah, 2014.
Cool. Can you talk a bit about how like that kind of experimental and improvisational sort of like scene has affected y'all's sound and even your creative process?
Yeah, totally. There's a really storied history of like improvised music and experimental music in Chicago. So there are just a lot of people that come here to play that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, we're influenced by it because we love playing with textures, and I think kind of just like coming into that scene and having our eyes open to all the possibilities of sound that you can make, and ways that you can play instruments was really eye-opening and inspiring, because we had both grown up playing a little more straightforward music. I grew up playing classical music and a lot of other stuff as well, but kind of discovering this scene felt like diving into the ocean in a really amazing way, because there's a lot to learn about it. So we definitely, when we first started playing, we weren't very familiar with the electric guitar beyond playing a little bit of acoustic guitar for songwriting and some electric for songwriting, but we really wanted to focus on that as like a main aspect of this band, because there's such a visceral feeling when you're making loud noises on the guitar. So we wanted to kind of hone that and play an instrument that we weren't as familiar with, so that we could come up with different angles of playing music than we were used to. So yeah, I think that all of that ethos of the experimental music scene and improvised music scene in Chicago kind of helped lead us to that point.
That's super
Awesome.
cool. Can you give us some insight on your songwriting process? Do you feel like you write lyrics first and then instrumentation comes second, or vice versa? Or do they kind of both unfold at the same time?
I would say it's kind of different for every song. I was listening to an interview with somebody the other day that made me feel very validated, because they were talking about how like it's constantly you're kind of like doing research all the time. You're reading and you're taking things from reading a book, or like you're listening to music and taking things from that. So it's not always, one doesn't always come first for me. I know that sometimes I'll have like a phrase where I'm like, that got to put that in a song. I know that I want to write around this. Or sometimes I'll have like a riff or a melody. And it's just different depending on the day. I don't think that I really have formulated that in a strict fashion, but when we're writing songs together or when we're bringing things to each other, we tend to have songs that are not totally finished, but definitely like 3/4 of the way there, like lyric and melody wise. And then we really like the last quarter of writing is done together. At least for this last record, we did a lot more collaborative writing, where like the last quarter of it would be together and then we would arrange the songs together. We've always arranged our music together as part of the writing process. But yeah, that's a little insight into it.
Thank you.
Do you feel like that kind of collaboration came naturally to you guys? I know with a classical background, do you think that made it trickier or easier to work with other musicians?
Oh no, I mean, we've always been collaborators with people from a very young age. But yeah, songwriting, I think, is something that can tend to be really personal, and you can sometimes feel possessive over the things that you write, because it's personal. So it's hard to give it to another person and trust them. So it was a process that we went through, because we didn't write together in the beginning. I had 3 songs and she had 3 songs, and then we played them. But yeah, this last record, we really had to grow a lot and grow to trust each other a lot more in order to finish it, and kind of give over some of ourselves to the other person, and trust that our visions weren't going to be compromised. So yeah, I think it is really difficult, and I don't think it's easy to do. Maybe it's easier for some people, but I think that we're getting better at it. But yeah, definitely a lot of trust has to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as Fantasize Your Ghost goes, the record you're referring to, what was it like to kind of go through the process of writing and putting that whole thing together and then releasing it in 2020 after, things got so crazy? What was that experience like? And do you feel like that's maybe going to affect the way that you approach projects in the future? Sorry, heavy loaded. Maybe it's a heavy question.
That is a question. Especially, yeah, I mean, it's like now it's like a year since it all went down.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were kind of like burning the candle at both ends, I think, for a long time. And especially with this record, which like I probably wouldn't make a record in that way again. Not that I don't think that it worked. Like, I think that it was exactly what needed to happen at that time. Like, it was the right thing to do. But yeah, I mean, it was in between tours, and it was in between a lot of like personal stuff happening too. So yeah, I think writing that and putting so much into it, and like I think it's probably one of our more like upfront records that we've made, compared to Parts and also our first EP, or our first record. I think that yeah, we put so much into it, and then the pandemic happened. And it was hard not to feel like weirdly disappointed, or just not even disappointed, just weird. It just felt weird, because there was so much build up to it and so much emotional energy expended into it, and to not be able to release it by playing live in front of people and just have it be, that's like so much of the beauty of making a record, is being able to, or making a record like that and with this band, is being able to play it live. So not having that was kind of sad, but I think that we're both really proud of the record. So while that, maybe it didn't happen exactly how we had hoped, I think that it still feels really good to have it out in the world. And we'll probably, you know, we're gonna play the songs. And we made like a concert film in the fall too that felt really good. So
Oh yeah, speaking of that, I was gonna ask, how have you been keeping busy during this age of quarantine? And have you had any notable silver linings that have come out, like live stream concerts?
I mean, that one was definitely a highlight. That was really fun. Our really good friend Lydia and my sister made the set design, and like, you know, it was a very small, tight crew, and we did it in like 2 days because
Oh, wow.
we had to, like, I mean, just COVID protocol. We're trying to be as responsible as possible. That was definitely a silver lining to like create something that big. But I mean, silver linings too, I feel like I'm discovering how I like to work again, you know, because I feel like spending 11 months out of the year on the road is you can lose sight of yourself and the things that you know you really want and need. But yeah, some live streams were fun, some are not, some are hard. But yeah, we've been keeping busy by like recording a lot of music. I have a solo record coming out this year. Seema's working on her solo record. I've been doing a lot of strings for a lot of different records. Seema's been producing for other people. So we've been doing, you know, I feel like in this time you gotta improvise to try and make yourself feel good.
Yeah, that's so much stuff. I didn't realize y'all were keeping so busy.
Yeah.
When does your solo album come out? When does that get released?
It will come out. It's coming out in the fall.
So exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, thanks.
Speaking of just kind of having all of these projects, you guys have collaborated with so many different artists, some really big names like Chance the Rapper, Wilco, Twin Peaks. Who would be your dream collaboration of someone you haven't worked with before?
Yeah, we've dreamed of collaborating with Feist a lot.
Oh, that would be very cool.
We love Feist. She's like a fucking genius. And her songs are really amazing. Yeah, other collaborations. I mean, we're both obsessed with Kate Bush, so that would be really fun.
That would be sick.
Yeah, I don't know. And I've been listening to yeah, I guess those are probably the top two. Those are probably the top two for Ohmme.
Nice. It sounds like you were going to start to say, I was just about to ask who you've been listening to lately. Yeah, and earlier you mentioned there's something so awesome about like really noisy kind of guitars. I would love to know what some of your favorite like noisier artists are in particular.
Totally. I really like, well, lately I've been listening to a lot of like 70s Japanese music and also very minimalist ambient music. That's where my
you gotta balance them out.
Yeah, I feel like when life is going full speed, that's when I'm like, yes, I want to listen to like loud guitars. But favorite loud guitar music, I kind of have to think about because I haven't been listening to it a ton. But I really like well, there's a new Warren Ellis and Nick Cave record that came out. I haven't listened to that yet, but they had a band called Grinder Man. That was pretty cool and very, very nasty guitar sounds. I've been listening to a lot of Ryuichi Sakamoto, who is in this band called Yellow Magic Orchestra in the 70s. The Katie Kirby record that just came out is kind of like, I can't stop listening to that. Really good. And then, yeah, I don't know, just like a lot of really awesome local Chicago people too. There's and then another person that I've been listening to is this keyboard player, Magda Mayas, who's from Berlin. She makes just stunning music, like really amazing improvised music, and plays prepared piano and clavichord too. So listening to a wide range of stuff.
Yeah.
The last few days I've actually been kind of silent though. I feel like I've been like, all right, I need a cleanse, a deep cleanse.
Absolutely.
Speaking, you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
local. Oh, sorry. You mentioned like local artists in Chicago. I was just kind of wondering what your favorite things to do around Chicago are. Your favorite places to play. What are like hidden gems?
I know, it makes me so sad to think about. I miss it so much. I really love, I love playing at Constellation. That's like just a gorgeous venue. It's so good. I really like hanging out at the Hungry Brain, which is like the sister venue to Constellation. The Hideout is always a good spot. You always see really good music there. And it's just, that's also a good hang. I love Chicago in the summertime, just in general. There's some good street festivals that happen and things like that. But yeah, I would say that my personal haunts are probably Hungry Brain, Constellation, and the Hideout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When live music hopefully, makes its hopefully soon return, outside of Chicago, where are you like looking forward to tour?
Yeah. Everywhere.
Anywhere but my own house.
Somewhere. I'd love to go somewhere. No, I'm really excited for us to tour. Tour the US with our new record, because that's just gonna feel so good to do. But yeah, I'm excited to go back to Europe and hopefully, and go back to Mexico City. That was the last place out of the country that we went actually before quarantine, and we played a show down there in January, and it was unbelievable. It was so much fun. So I'd love to do that again. But yeah, I'm excited to just travel. I don't care. I'll go somewhere, and just see all the people that I'm missing.
Definitely.
Do you have plans for who will be on that tour with you, or are there other artists you're looking forward to being on the road with?
Well, we have a perpetual tour planned with our friend Vivi Lightbody. We've been trying to like get back on tour with her for a while, because she released an amazing record last year, Make a Shrine or Burn It, and it's so good. But yeah, we were supposed to tour with her in January, and then in June, and then in January again. Now we're like, oh, I don't know. So her, yeah, that's probably our plan for now. I think everyone's starting to figure out the fall and if that's gonna feel doable for touring or not.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I hope that it is, obviously.
Dude, I can't wait.
I'd love to see you in Nashville, hopefully, fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Or even that, maybe, right? So right now all of our radio station stuff is remote broadcasting from all of our homes. So maybe even in the physical station once we're all back.
Yeah.
The world is up and running again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Sophie, you got any other questions off the top of your head?
I guess kind of on the topic of touring, I know you all have toured with a bunch of groups, and I won't make you pick like your favorite, like no hard feelings, but what like experience has been like your favorite? It's not necessarily like who you played with that made it the best, but just like what's the best touring memory?
That's good.
That's a good, I like that.
If you happen to watch this, you don't have to hurt any feelings, but
yeah. Best tour experience. We had a really fun time on tour there are two that I'm thinking of specifically in the recent history. We went to Europe, and then SEMA booked us a tour in Armenia and the Caucasus. And that tour experience, while very hard, because we were like driving ourselves around and kind of like really really going for it, not sleeping very much. It was amazing. It was so cool, and it was like all places that I've never been before. Seema has a history of going over there, and her family is from Armenia. But we kind of like, we booked a bunch of shows and just played with our friends and drove around this beautiful country, and ate a bunch of food. So that was amazing. And then honestly, the last big tour that we did, we were touring with just some really amazing bands and groups of friends. And that was a really, really special time. And I think it kind of felt like a peak a little bit, where we were like, wow, like where do we go from here? This is the most fun we've ever had on tour. So, you know, maybe it was right for, let's take a pause. We all got to think. But yeah, I think those are probably my two highlights that come to mind.
Those are beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask off of that, if you've got a standout, maybe go to like funny or like wacky tour story.
Wow, there are a lot of them. Because tour is nuts, but I'll tell this one's more sad than it is like wacky or anything. It's like sad funny. But we were driving, and we were in LA, and we were rushing to like rent a car or pick up a car. Oh, our van. Okay, our van broke down like 3 times on this tour. And
No.
we had our friends pick us up. Like we just so happened to be going the same route as some of our friends, and they are incredible. They turned around and drove the 70 miles to come pick us up and put all of our shit in their car. And we just like crammed ourselves into this van, because they had just finished tour managing this other tour. And so they drove us to our show. We had to cancel one of our shows, and they drove us all the way straight to LA because we had to make it for our next show in LA. But in the meantime, we had to go rent a van so that we could finish our tour, and then also like get our stuff out of their van so they could finish their tour. And so we're like running around. We had to rent a van, play a show the same day, do sound check, all of this stuff. And we like hadn't slept, and we hadn't eaten anything. And we were like, we should eat some food. And Seema was like, all right, I'm gonna cook us some food, because we were staying at our friend's house and they weren't there. And Matt and I were just packing up all of our stuff so that we could just throw it in the Uber and like go to pick up the car. And so Seema finished cooking, and she's like, all right, food's ready. And we are like, yes, finally. We had like 5 minutes to eat, and we go into the kitchen, and before I walk in there, I just hear like shattering, just like horrific shattering. And then I was like, oh no, what happened? And I went in there, and there's just like sausage and like broccoli all over the ground, because our friends' cabinets are like the same level as the counter. And she had opened the cabinet and flung the plate across the kitchen. And we were so hungry that we ate the sausage off the floor. we're like, this is fine. And then, like, we only stopped after we ate some pieces of porcelain. We're like, we should just go pick up food sometime, like order food at the venue. So
That's so chaotic.
Yeah, that was a very chaotic story, but it was also really funny.
Yeah,
just
it's like perfect, like funny, sad, like border.
Yeah. Just like eating sausages off the floor. It's like kind of gross, but you do. You make it work.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Awesome. How do we follow up a question in a story like that?
What's the good eating porcelain off the floor?
Yeah. Fancy.
There you go. Silver lining. All right. I'm trying to think. I don't know if we should end on the porcelain eating note. Sophie, you got anything?
I guess I'll just ask, do you have any questions for us as college university student?
Yeah. How is it right now? Are you guys back in school, and are you like, I can't imagine. Well, I also didn't even go to college, so I don't even know what it's like in general. What is college?
Well, it's kind of hard to answer that right now, I think. Yes and no. We're like at Vanderbilt anyway, we're kind of in a hybrid situation. Like people are back and like living in the dorms and stuff,
Yeah.
but most, at least like almost all of my classes have been completely online or like hybrid, like online and in person. What about you, Sophie?
Yeah, I am one of the people living on campus. I live in an on-campus apartment, so that's the view. And then I have like a couple in-person classes. My like language classes tend to be in person, and then everything else is pretty much online. But anything is great. Any chance to go and learn in person, I would like.
Yeah, we're all just like it. I think the sentiment of everyone is that it's super weird and it's like certainly not a normal. It's so far from normalcy, but also we're so desperate to like not be in our parents' houses and to like not have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So it's a win in a lot of respects. And we've been lucky that like we haven't had to go home this year or anything. Like it's been kept up and sustainable and safe so far.
That's good.
Yeah, forcing all of us to learn so many new skills.
I know. Yeah, I'm like, I never thought I would be on Zoom so much of my life.
Yes.
And yeah, but also I feel like it's teaching people a lot about like communication too, as far as like, you know, needing to figure out how to communicate when you can't be there in the same place, but then also like COVID protocol and figuring out what people are comfortable with and where people have been and what you need to do. So that's kind of I feel like that's a boon.
Yeah, definitely. For us at WRVU too, it's been awesome because we get to talk and do shows and stuff with people like you and other bands who are not in our, you know, immediate Nashville vicinity, which obviously we love to work with them, but super exciting for us to be able to do a show where we've got people from Chicago and that we never would have been able to work with otherwise.
Yeah, I feel like that's something really beautiful that's happened is like, yeah, the world has gotten smaller in that respect. Like you have access to things that you wouldn't otherwise. Yeah, my friend runs a series in Chicago and they were able to book a bunch of people who are not in the country at all that I would never have been able to see play if it weren't for that. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like it's created a lot of boundaries, but also broken a lot of other ones down.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's our nice happy ending note away from the food story.